Captain Ethan Calder stands resolute on the bridge of the Zenith Ascendant, humanity's most advanced warship, hidden deep within the Veil Nebula. The ship is a colossal marvel of engineering, spanning 16 kilometers in length with a crew of 250,000, the brightest minds Earth has to offer. Strategists, scientists, engineers, and soldiers united under one mission. The nebula's swirling hues of violet and gold cast eerie shadows across the ship's gleaming hull, concealing it from the prying eyes of the Celestian Dominion, a galactic empire infamous for its ruthless conquests. Ethan gazes at the stars ahead, knowing that this moment will define humanity's place in the galaxy. Behind him, Commander Arya Voss, his trusted second-in-command, approaches with grim news. Captain, reconnaissance reports confirm the Dominion fleet is larger than anticipated. Over 400 vessels are advancing toward our borders, she says, her voice steady despite the weight of the revelation. The Dominion, a 1,000-year-old empire, has always viewed humanity as insignificant, a primitive species barely capable of interstellar travel. But Ethan knows they are gravely mistaken. For generations, humanity has prepared for this moment, silently studying the Dominion's tactics, technology, and weaknesses. Ethan turns to Arya, his expression calm but determined. They think they're facing another easy conquest, he says. Let's show them how wrong they are. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant loomed in the depths of the Veil Nebula, its dark hull blending seamlessly with the swirling hues of violet and gold. The ship was an enigma, a masterpiece of human ingenuity forged in secrecy and determination. Its surface, crafted from Aegis alloy asterisk, shimmered faintly in the nebula's ethereal light, as if breathing with the energy it absorbed. This alloy was no ordinary metal. It was a living defense, capable of redirecting the fury of enemy attacks back upon them. Inside, the ship pulsed with quiet life, its vast corridors humming with unseen power. The crew moved with purpose, their faces set in grim determination, their steps echoing faintly against the polished floors. They knew the ship they served was unlike any other, a vessel born from humanity's dreams of survival and defiance. Its weapons were mysterious and deadly. Kinetic hyperslugs asterisk, projectiles accelerated to unimaginable speeds, capable of tearing through the strongest defenses, and spatial rift emitters, devices that bent the fabric of reality to erase enemies from existence. These technologies were humanity's secret, a silent answer to the Dominion's centuries of oppression. On the bridge, the atmosphere was tense yet calm, like the stillness before a storm. Captain Ethan Calder stood at the helm, his presence anchoring the crew in their resolve. The room was bathed in the nebula's eerie glow, casting long shadows across the consoles and holographic displays. Lieutenant Ronan Drake, the ship's tactical officer, approached Ethan and Commander Arya Voss. Ronan was a man of sharp intellect and sharper instincts, his eyes constantly scanning the data flowing across the bridge's displays. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who had studied the enemy for years. The Dominion's battle plans are predictable, Ronan said, his voice steady but edged with disdain. They rely on overwhelming firepower and energy weapons to crush resistance. It's worked for centuries. Ethan turned to him, his expression calm but resolute. But not today, he replied, his words carrying a quiet strength that seemed to ripple through the room. Ronan nodded, his lips curving into a faint smile. Not today, he echoed, his voice filled with conviction. Suddenly, the faint hum of the ship's systems shifted, signaling an incoming transmission. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the room, and Admiral Sophia Kane appeared. Her figure was tall and commanding, her presence radiating authority even from light years away. Sophia's gaze swept over the bridge, her eyes sharp but filled with something deeper, an unspoken hope. She had led humanity's forces for decades, her strategies shaping the path that had brought them to this pivotal moment. Ethan, she began, her voice steady but tinged with urgency, remember what's at stake. As the crew turned their attention to the hologram, her words drawing them in like a beacon. This isn't just about survival, Sophia continued, her tone softening, becoming almost reverent. It's about proving to the galaxy that there's a better way, one built on cooperation, not conquest. We're not here to destroy. We're here to show them who we are. Ethan nodded, his face unreadable but his eyes burning with resolve. We'll show them, he said simply, his words carrying the weight of humanity's hopes and dreams. Sophia's hologram flickered, her image fading back into the void. But her presence lingered, her words echoing in the minds of the crew. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant began its slow emergence from the Veil Nebula, its colossal form gliding forward like a predator stalking its prey. The nebula's swirling light clung to the ship's hull, casting it in an otherworldly glow that made it appear almost mythical. As the ship moved, the nebula's mist parted reluctantly, revealing the vast expanse of space beyond. The Dominion fleet waited there, a sea of dark vessels bristling with weapons and menace. They were a force of overwhelming power, their numbers stretching across the void like a tidal wave. On the bridge, the crew watched the enemy ships come into view. Their faces were tense but resolute, their breath steady despite the fear that gripped their hearts. They knew what lay ahead, a battle that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Ethan stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the enemy fleet. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him, but he did not falter. Behind him, Arya and Ronan stood silently, their presence a reminder that he was not alone. The ship systems hummed louder, a sound that seemed to resonate with the crew's rising determination. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant was ready, its weapons primed, its defenses unwavering. Ethan took a deep breath, his voice firm as he addressed the crew. "This is it," he said, his words cutting through the tension like a blade. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every world the Dominion has crushed, for every voice they've silenced, for the galaxy's future." The crew nodded, their resolve solidifying into something unbreakable. As the asterisk Zenith Ascendant moved into open space, the Dominion fleet began to stir, their ships shifting into attack formation. The air on the bridge grew heavier, charged with anticipation and unspoken fear, but Ethan's voice cut through the silence, steady and unyielding. "They think they know us," he said, his tone calm but fierce. "They think they've already won. Let's show them how wrong they are." And with that, the asterisk Zenith Ascendant surged forward, its colossal form cutting through the void like a blade through darkness. The battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The void of space stretched endlessly, cold and unyielding, as the asterisk Zenith Ascendant emerged fully from the swirling embrace of the Veil Nebula. Like a leviathan rising from the depths of an ancient, forgotten ocean, its massive form pierced the darkness, casting an imposing shadow over the Dominion fleet. The ship's surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the pale light of distant stars, its presence both haunting and magnificent. On the Dominion flagship, asterisk Eternal Wrath, Fleet Commander Zerath Malachar stood motionless, his golden yellow eyes narrowing as he stared at the readings flooding his command console. The holographic display before him flickered with confusion, the Dominion's advanced sensors struggling to interpret the anomaly before them. "What is this?" Zerath growled, his voice low and sharp, like a blade drawn in anger. Around him, his officers exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence wavering in the face of the unknown. The ship appeared on their visual monitors moments later, its colossal silhouette dominating the void. Even at a distance, the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk dwarfed the Dominion's largest dreadnoughts, its sheer size and alien design defying comprehension. "Impossible," Zerath muttered, his voice barely audible. His sharp features twisted in disbelief, his mind racing to make sense of what he was seeing. In his centuries of conquest, he had never encountered a vessel like this. It was as if the humans had summoned a god of war from the stars themselves. The Dominion fleet stirred uneasily, their formations shifting as the captains scrambled to adjust to the unprecedented threat. Zarath clenched his fists, his commanding presence snapping his officers back into focus. "Form up," he barked, his voice cutting through the tension like thunder. "Weapons charged, prime all batteries. Whatever this thing is, we will destroy it." The Dominion fleet moved with precision, their ships aligning into a deadly formation like a swarm of predators encircling their prey. From the asterisk Eternal Wrath, Zarath gave the order, his voice cold and resolute. "Fire." The void erupted in a storm of light and fury. Energy beams, blindingly bright and searing, lanced through the darkness. Plasma bursts, glowing with deadly heat, streaked toward the human vessel. Gravity bombs, shimmering with an ominous distortion, hurtled forward, their destructive power capable of shattering entire moons. The barrage was relentless, a symphony of destruction that lit up the void with its terrible beauty. The Dominion's confidence surged as they unleashed the full might of their arsenal, their weapons converging on the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk in a dazzling display of power. But as the storm struck, something extraordinary happened. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant stood unyielding, its hull shimmering faintly as it absorbed the onslaught. The energy beams dissipated harmlessly against its surface, their power drawn into the ship like water into parched earth. The plasma bursts fizzled out, their heat vanishing into the void. The gravity bombs, so devastating against lesser vessels, detonated against an invisible barrier, their force redirected harmlessly into the emptiness of space. On the bridge of the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk, the crew watched the spectacle with a mix of awe and quiet confidence. The ship's defenses, forged from humanity's desperate ingenuity, held firm. Arya Voss, standing at her station, glanced at the readings on her console. Her voice was calm but carried a note of satisfaction. "Armor integrity at 100%, she reported. "We're converting their attack into usable energy." Ethan Calder allowed himself a grim smile, his eyes never leaving the holographic display of the Dominion fleet. The enemy's arrogance, their belief in their invincibility, was crumbling before his eyes. "Good," he said quietly, his voice steady. "Let them see what they're up against." Ethan stepped forward, his presence commanding the attention of everyone on the bridge. His expression was calm, almost serene, but his eyes burned with a fire that could not be extinguished. "Open a channel to their fleet," he ordered. The crew moved swiftly, their hands dancing across the consoles as they established the connection. Moments later, Ethan's image appeared across the Dominion ships, his figure projected onto their command decks like a ghost from the void. On the asterisk Eternal Wrath asterisk, Zarath stared at the human captain's hologram, his golden eyes narrowing in fury. The sight of a lone human standing unshaken in the face of the Dominion's might was an insult he could barely tolerate. Ethan's voice, calm and measured, echoed across the Dominion fleet. "I am Captain Ethan Calder of the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk," he began, his tone carrying the weight of unshakable resolve. He paused, letting his words settle like a storm gathering on the horizon. The silence that followed was deafening, the Dominion officers frozen as they listened. "You've made a grave mistake coming here," Ethan continued, his voice steady but laced with quiet menace. "You think your power makes you invincible. You think your conquests make you untouchable. But today you will learn the cost of your arrogance." Zarath's jaw tightened, his hands clenching into fists. "Bold words," he snarled, his voice dripping with disdain. "But words won't save you, human." Ethan's expression remained unchanged, his calm unbroken. "This isn't about saving ourselves," he said simply. "This is about showing the galaxy that there's another way, a way beyond your tyranny." The connection cut abruptly, Ethan's image vanishing from the Dominion ships. On the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk, he turned back to his crew, his expression hardening. "Prepare to engage," he said, his voice firm. "Let us show them what humanity is capable of." The asterisk Zenith Ascendant surged forward, its massive form cutting through the void like a blade through darkness. The Dominion fleet, so confident in their superiority, faltered as the human vessel advanced, its presence a silent declaration of defiance. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion faced an enemy they could not understand. And for the first time, fear began to creep into their hearts. The void was silent for a moment, as if the universe itself held its breath. The Dominion fleet, once so confident in its overwhelming power, now found itself facing something it could not comprehend. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant loomed before them, still and unyielding, like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And then it began. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant retaliated with a precision that bordered on terrifying. From its hidden depths, the ship unleashed its first volley of kinetic hyperslugs. These projectiles, dense and cold as the void itself, tore through the darkness at unimaginable speeds near the very edge of light. The first slug struck a Dominion cruiser. Its shields, designed to withstand the fiercest energy blasts, crumbled instantly under the sheer physical force. The slug punched clean through the ship's hull, its momentum unstoppable, leaving a gaping wound in its wake. For a brief moment, the cruiser hung in space, its structure groaning under the strain. Then, with a blinding explosion, it shattered into 1,000 fiery fragments, its remains scattering like dying stars. The Dominion fleet scrambled to respond, their formations breaking apart as panic spread like wildfire. But the Zenith Ascendant was relentless. More hyperslugs followed, each one finding its mark with deadly precision. Ships that had once been symbols of dominion were reduced to wreckage in mere moments, their destruction lighting up the void in bursts of orange and crimson. And then the asterisk Zenith Ascendant revealed its true power. From the ship's core, a low, resonant hum began to build, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of reality. The spatial rift emitters came to life, their purpose clear and devastating. The first rift appeared near the Dominion's front line, a shimmering distortion in the void that twisted and warped the stars around it. It was beautiful and horrifying all at once, a wound in spacetime that defied comprehension. A Dominion battleship caught too close to the anomaly was the first to fall. The rift expanded with an eerie grace, its edges rippling like liquid light. The battleship's hull began to buckle, its massive form bending unnaturally as it was pulled toward the rift center. There was no explosion, no fire, only silence as the ship was consumed, its existence erased as if it had never been. More rifts followed, each one a death sentence for any Dominion vessel caught in its grasp. Frigates, cruisers, even dreadnoughts, none were spared. The void became a graveyard, the Dominion's once mighty fleet reduced to scattered debris and fading echoes. On the bridge of the asterisk Eternal Wrath, Fleet Commander Zerath Malakar watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. His golden eyes, once filled with arrogance and certainty, now reflected only confusion and fear. "What kind of technology is this?" he demanded, his voice trembling with a mix of rage and desperation. His officers, normally so composed, were silent, their faces pale as they stared at the chaos unfolding before them. Zerath slammed his fist against the console, his sharp claws gouging deep marks into the metal. "This is impossible." He roared, his voice echoing through the command deck. "No human technology can do this." But even as he spoke, another rift opened, swallowing 3 more Dominion ships in an instant. The sight left him speechless, his mind reeling as he struggled to comprehend the power he was facing. And then, cutting through the chaos like a blade, came Ethan Calder's voice. It echoed across the Dominion ships, calm and unyielding, carrying the weight of humanity's defiance. "This is human ingenuity," Ethan declared, his words resonating in the hearts of his enemies. We don't fight like you. We don't rely on brute strength or fear. We adapt, we overcome, and today we prevail." On the asterisk Eternal Wrath, Zarath's claws dug deeper into the console, his fury barely contained. But beneath his anger, a cold realization began to take hold. This was no ordinary enemy. This was no ordinary battle. Ethan's voice continued, unwavering. "You thought we were weak. You thought we would fall like all the others. But you were wrong. Humanity is not just a species. We are a force. And today we show you what that means." The asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk pressed its advantage, its attacks precise and unrelenting. The Dominion fleet, once so vast and indomitable, was now a shadow of its former self. Ships that had once inspired fear across the galaxy were now little more than wreckage, drifting aimlessly in the void. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion faced a foe they could not dominate. Their arrogance, their belief in their invincibility had been their undoing. And in the heart of the chaos, the asterisk Zenith Ascendant stood unshaken, a testament to humanity's resilience and ingenuity. The battle was far from over, but the tide had turned. The galaxy would remember this day, not as the day humanity fell, but as the day it rose to challenge the stars themselves. The void was quiet once more, but it was no longer the same. Where there had been chaos and destruction, now there was only silence. The remnants of the Dominion fleet, battered and broken, fled into the darkness like wounded beasts retreating to lick their wounds. Their once proud ships, scarred and on the bridge of the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk, the atmosphere was heavy with a mix of triumph and exhaustion. The crew, though victorious, remained quiet, their gazes fixed on the aftermath of the battle. For all their strength, they knew this was only the beginning. Ethan Calder stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes scanning the holographic display of the battlefield. His expression was calm, but the weight of what had just transpired was evident in the set of his jaw and the tension in his shoulders. "Status report," he said, his voice steady despite the enormity of their victory. Chief Engineer Darius Holt, a grizzled veteran with a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue, stepped forward. His face was lit with a mixture of awe and disbelief as he glanced at the readings on his console. "Captain," he began, shaking his head slightly as if he still couldn't believe what he was seeing. "It's incredible. Their weapons didn't just fail, they made us stronger." He gestured toward the holographic projection of the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk, its glowing hull a testament to the energy it had absorbed. Every shot they fired, every bomb they dropped, it all fed into our systems. They didn't even scratch us. If anything, they gave us more power than we started with. There was a murmur of amazement among the crew, but Ethan's expression remained serious. He nodded, acknowledging Darius's words, but his mind was already moving beyond the battle. "Good work, Darius," he said simply, "but let's not get complacent. Make sure every system is checked and rechecked. I want to know exactly how much we've gained, and if there's anything we need to improve." Darius nodded, the awe in his eyes giving way to determination. "I, Captain, will make her even better." As the crew worked to assess the ship's condition, messages began to flood in from across the galaxy. The battle had not gone unnoticed. Word of humanity's victory spread like wildfire, carried by fleeing Dominion ships and the whispers of those who had watched from the shadows. On the bridge, Arya Voss sifted through the incoming transmissions, her sharp eyes scanning each one with practiced efficiency. Most were from independent systems and scattered colonies, their messages filled with equal parts hope and desperation. But one message stood out. "Captain," Arya said, her voice breaking the heavy silence, "we've received a transmission from the Vayari Coalition." Ethan turned to her, his expression unreadable. "The Vayari." Arya nodded, her tone softening. "They've been under Dominion rule for generations. Enslaved, their world stripped of resources, their people treated like little more than tools." She paused, her voice trembling slightly. "They're asking for our help." She activated the transmission, and a holographic image filled the air. A Vayari leader, his face lined with age and suffering, spoke with a voice that carried the weight of countless years of oppression. If you are truly different from our oppressors, the Vayari leader said, his eyes filled with a cautious hope, help us reclaim our freedom. We have suffered for too long. We cannot do this alone. The message ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Ethan felt the weight of the words settle on his shoulders. The victory against the Dominion had proven humanity's strength, but it had also opened a door to a galaxy filled with suffering, injustice, and desperation. He turned away from the hologram, his gaze drifting to the vast expanse of stars beyond the bridge's viewport. Each star represented a world, a people, a story. And now, humanity was a part of that story. We've shown them what we can do, Ethan said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. But now we have to decide who we are. Darius stepped forward, his normally gruff demeanor softened by the gravity of the moment. Captain, we've got the strength to make a difference. That much is clear. But this isn't just about us anymore. If we step into this fight, there's no turning back. Ethan nodded, his expression thoughtful. I know, Darius. But if we turn our backs now, what does that make us? No better than the Dominion. Arya spoke up, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. The galaxy is watching, Captain. Whatever we do next, it will define us, for better or worse. Ethan took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like the gravity of a dying star. He turned back to his crew, his gaze meeting each of theirs in turn. This isn't just about humanity anymore, he said, his voice firm. It's about something bigger, something worth fighting for. The crew nodded, their resolve clear. They had faced the Dominion and won, but their greatest challenge was still ahead. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant remained in the void, its glow a beacon of hope for those who had suffered in silence for too long. And as the remnants of the Dominion fleet disappeared into the darkness, the galaxy began to change. For the first time in centuries, there was a spark of something new, a spark of freedom, of defiance, of hope. And at the heart of it all stood humanity, ready to face whatever came next. The stars seemed brighter now. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was no longer a place ruled by fear and oppression. It was a place of possibility, of fragile hope, where species once divided by mistrust and domination now dared to dream of something greater. Over the next year, humanity became the heart of that dream. The victory of the asterisk Zenith Ascendant asterisk had ignited a fire across the galaxy, one that could not be extinguished. Species long silenced under the Dominion's iron grip began to rise, their voices joining together in a chorus of defiance. The asterisk Zenith Ascendant was no longer alone. Two sister ships, the asterisk Celestial Resolve and the asterisk Eclipse Vanguard asterisk, emerged from Earth shipyards, their designs refined by the lessons learned in humanity's first battle against the Dominion. These ships were more than war machines, they were symbols. The Celestial Resolve was a beacon of resilience, its gleaming hull reflecting the determination of countless worlds that refused to bow. The asterisk Eclipse Vanguard asterisk, darker and sleeker, carried an aura of silent strength, a reminder that hope was not always gentle. It could be fierce, unyielding, and unstoppable. Together, these three ships formed the core of humanity's fleet, a triumvirate that inspired awe and fear across the galaxy. Wherever they went, they carried the promise of liberation and the warning of swift justice for those who sought to oppress. But humanity did not stand alone. The Vayari, freed from generations of enslavement, brought their ingenuity and resourcefulness to the table. Their engineers, masters of adaptive technologies, worked tirelessly to enhance the fleet systems, their minds driven by the dream of a galaxy where their people could live without chains. The Quarath Syndicate, a species once known for their cunning and ruthless trade networks, found new purpose in the alliance. Their vast resources and logistical expertise became the backbone of the coalition, ensuring that every liberated world had the supplies and infrastructure needed to rebuild. From these efforts, the Unity Accord was born, a coalition unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. It was not built on conquest or domination, but on mutual respect and shared progress. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion now worked side by side, their differences becoming strengths rather than weaknesses. The first true symbol of this unity was the Harmonia Asterisk, a ship that embodied the spirit of interspecies collaboration. Its sleek design blended human defensive systems with Vayari adaptive shielding and Quarath propulsion technology, creating a vessel that was both beautiful and formidable. When the Harmonia Asterisk was unveiled, its launch was celebrated across the galaxy. It was more than just a ship, it was a promise, a beacon of what could be achieved when the walls between species were torn down. On Earth, Admiral Kane worked tirelessly to coordinate humanity's efforts within the Alliance. His sharp mind and unyielding resolve made him a natural leader, and his ability to balance diplomacy with strategy earned him the respect of allies and enemies alike. Under Kane's guidance, Earth became the coalition's nerve center, a hub where plans were forged and resources were distributed. The planet, once isolated and vulnerable, now stood at the heart of a growing network of liberated worlds. Admiral Kane's office buzzed with activity day and night, his staff working around the clock to ensure the Alliance's survival. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls, each marked with the locations of Dominion strongholds and newly freed systems. Despite the weight of his responsibilities, Kane never wavered. He knew what was at stake, not just for humanity, but for every species that had placed their trust in the coalition. While Kane coordinated from Earth, Ethan Calder remained on the front lines. The Zenith Ascendant Asterisk, now joined by its sister ships, led missions to liberate enslaved worlds and push back against the Dominion's crumbling empire. Each mission was a test of resolve, a reminder of the horrors. For all its successes, the Alliance knew that its work was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and the scars left by the Dominion would take generations to heal. But for the first time, there was hope, a fragile, flickering light that refused to be extinguished. Humanity, once seen as insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy, had become a force of change. And as the coalition grew, so did the belief that a better future was possible. The Zenith Ascendant Asterisk, the Celestial Resolve Asterisk, the Eclipse Vanguard Asterisk, and the Harmonia Asterisk sailed through the stars, their presence a reminder that even in the darkest of times there could be light. And as the galaxy watched, it began to believe. Sanctis Prime was a world unlike any other. Its skies shimmered with hues of gold and violet, streaked by wisps of iridescent clouds that seemed to dance in the sunlight. Towering crystalline spires rose from the surface, their translucent forms refracting light into cascading rainbows across the landscape. The air hummed with an almost ethereal energy, as if the planet itself was alive, watching, waiting. This untouched haven, spared the ravages of Dominion conquest, had been chosen as the site for an unprecedented gathering, a summit that would determine the future of the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species arrived in ships of every shape and size, their banners and insignias reflecting the diversity of their worlds. The Grand Assembly Hall, carved from a single massive crystal, glowed faintly as the delegates entered. The chamber was vast, its walls shimmering like liquid light, and the air carried the weight of expectation. For many, this was the first time they had stood among so many others as equals. Ethan Calder stood at the center of the hall, his figure framed by the golden light streaming through the crystalline walls. His uniform, though simple, carried the weight of humanity's victories and sacrifices. The room quieted as he stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. He paused for a moment, his gaze sweeping across the assembly, He saw faces filled with hope, fear, skepticism, and determination. These were leaders, survivors, warriors, each carrying the scars of their own battles, their own losses. Ethan's voice, steady but filled with emotion, broke the silence. For centuries, this galaxy has been trapped in a cycle of oppression and violence. Empires rise, empires fall, but the suffering remains the same. We have all felt it, the weight of chains, the sting of betrayal, the loss of those we love. His words hung in the air, resonating with the pain that many in the room carried. He took a deep breath, his tone softening. But it doesn't have to be this way. Humanity has shown that strength does not come from domination, but from unity. Together, we defeated the Dominion not as conquerors, but as allies. And together, we can build something greater than any of us could achieve alone. He stepped closer to the assembly, his voice rising with conviction. I urge you abandon the cycle of oppression. Let us create a true alliance, one founded on cooperation, respect, and mutual progress. Let us show the galaxy that we are capable of more than destruction. Let us build a future worth fighting for. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with the weight of decision. Then a figure rose from among the delegates, a woman with luminous blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow like starlight. Ambassador Leora Talan of the Vayari Coalition stepped forward, her movements graceful yet purposeful. Her presence was magnetic, her voice carrying the strength of a people who had endured generations of suffering. She turned to face the assembly, her gaze fierce and unyielding. We Vayari know the cost of oppression better than most. For generations, we lived under the Dominion's rule, our world stripped bare, our people reduced to tools for their empire. We know what it means to suffer, to struggle, to survive. Her voice softened, trembling slightly as she continued. But we also know what it means to hope. Humanity gave us that hope. They showed us that strength lies not in domination, but in unity. They fought for us, not because they had to, but because they chose to. And now they offer us a chance to build something new. She turned back to Ethan, her gaze steady. The humans have proven that they are different. They have earned our trust, and now they ask us to trust each other. We vote for alliance. We vote for unity. We vote for a future where no species has to live in fear. Her words ignited a spark in the assembly, murmurs of agreement spreading like wildfire through the room. One by one, the representatives rose to cast their votes. The Quarath Syndicate, their leaders' sharp features softened by a rare smile, declared their support. The Lumari delegation, a species of bioluminescent beings, shimmered with approval as their spokesperson voiced their agreement. Even the wary Zainari, known for their isolationist tendencies, nodded solemnly, their leader stating, "We will stand with you." The votes continued, unanimous in their decision. For the first time in galactic history, species that had once been enemies stood together as allies. The room seemed to glow brighter, as if the very walls of the Grand Assembly Hall were responding to the moment. When the final vote was cast, Ethan stepped forward once more, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Then it is decided. From this day forward, we are no longer divided by fear and mistrust. We are united by a common vision. We are the galactic conquered. The room erupted in applause, a sound that carried the weight of centuries of hope, pain, and determination. Delegates embraced, their differences forgotten in the face of their shared triumph. The formation of the Galactic Conquered was more than a political agreement, it was a promise. A promise to protect those who could not protect themselves. A promise to rebuild what had been destroyed. A promise to create a galaxy where every species could thrive, free from the shadow of oppression. As the summit ended, the delegates stepped out into the golden light of Sancti's Prime, their hearts filled with hope. The galaxy had changed, and they were the ones who had changed it. Ethan stood at the edge of the crowd, watching as the representatives returned to their ships. He felt the weight of the moment, the enormity of what had been achieved. But he also felt something else, a quiet resolve. This was only the beginning. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time the galaxy was united in its purpose. And as the ships of the Galactic Concord lifted off into the shimmering skies of Sanctis Prime, the stars seemed to shine just a little brighter, as if they, too, believed in the promise of a better future. The stellar fringe was a realm of mystery, a place where the stars burned brighter and the void seemed deeper. It was a frontier untouched by war, unspoiled by the Dominion's greed, a blank canvas waiting to be painted with the colors of discovery. For the first time in galactic history, ships from 30 species flew together, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant suns. They were explorers, not conquerors, united by a shared hunger for knowledge and a hope for something greater. On board the Zenith Ascendant Asterisk, the heart of the fleet, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats from across the galaxy worked side by side, their voices blending into a symphony of collaboration. Dr. Alina Cross, humanity's foremost medical expert, moved through the ship's infirmary, her presence calm and reassuring. Alina had made it her mission to heal not just bodies but entire civilizations. Her interspecies medical programs were revolutionary, combining human precision with alien biological insights. Diseases that had plagued worlds for centuries were being cured, their names fading into history as hope replaced despair. On one table, a Vayari child smiled for the first time in years, her luminous skin glowing with health as Alina gently adjusted her treatment. The room was filled with quiet joy, the kind that came from knowing that suffering was finally being left behind. In the engineering bay, Darius Holt worked tirelessly, his hands stained with grease and his mind alive with possibilities. He had become a legend among the fleet, known for blending human ingenuity with alien brilliance. The technologies he created weren't just tools, they were bridges, connecting species through shared innovation. One of his creations, a hybrid propulsion system powered by Quareth energy crystals and human quantum stabilizers, hummed softly in the corner. It would allow ships to travel further and faster, opening paths to stars that had once been unreachable. Darius looked at his team, a mix of Vayari, Lumari, and Zainari engineers, and smiled. "We're not just building machines," he said. "We're building the future." As the fleet ventured deeper into the stellar fringe, the galaxy itself began to heal. The scars of war faded as art, music, and culture flowed freely between worlds. On Earth, Vayari dancers performed under the night sky, their movements telling stories of resilience and hope. On Lumari, human poets recited verses that brought tears to glowing eyes. Across the galaxy, understanding blossomed, friendships formed, and the walls between species crumbled. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, their light a promise of infinite possibilities. Ethan Calder stood on the bridge of the Zenith Ascendant Asterisk, his hands resting lightly on the rail as he watched the fleet prepare for its next jump. The air was still, filled with the quiet hum of anticipation. Behind them, the galaxy was silent, not with fear but with cooperation. The Dominion's empire of oppression had crumbled, its chains shattered by the courage of countless worlds. In its place, a network of free planets thrived, each contributing to a tapestry of unity and progress. Humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, had become a beacon of hope. Their victories had inspired others to rise, their alliances had forged bonds that could not be broken, and their vision had shown the galaxy what it could become. Ethan's gaze shifted to the stars ahead, their light